If you can hear this, keep your volume low. Not because I want to be dramatic, because anything loud right now draws the wrong kind of attention, and I do not know who is still listening on the official channels and who is just sweeping the air for anything that moves. This is Mara Ellison. I used to read the morning traffic and weather. That was my whole job. I am still doing a version of that job, only there is no traffic map that makes sense anymore, and the weather is not the thing that can kill you first. You are hearing KQRT, the old community transmitter outside Albuquerque, New Mexico. We are not supposed to be on the air. The main studios went dark after the first pulse. I'm in the back room of a print shop off 2nd Street because it has thick walls and a basement and a manual lock that still works without a keypad. It is day 1. I am saying that out loud because my mind keeps trying to pretend it is not. World nuclear war began this morning. If that sounds like something you would only hear in a bad movie, I understand. I'm still waiting to wake up in my own bed and find out I fell asleep with the radio on. But here is the chilling fact I can't talk my way out of. At 5:42 a.m., there was a flash in the north that turned the windows white for a split second, and then every powered thing in this room clicked, hummed, and died like somebody cut the cord to the whole city. 2 minutes later, the first low rumble rolled in, too slow to be thunder, like a heavy truck passing underground. That wasn't a transformer blew. That wasn't a storm hit. That was a blast wave arriving late because whatever detonated was far away. And when the power died, our old Geiger counter from the university lab, yes, I know how that sounds, and yes, it is real, kept working because its battery. The needle has not gone back to where it belongs since. I'm going to keep this calm and simple. I'm going to say what I know, say what I don't know, and repeat the things that matter. If you're driving, you may not have much time before roads lock up or you run out of fuel. If you're at home, you may have a few hours to make choices that will be hard to undo. This is the situation update as of mid-morning Mountain Time on day 1. The sky over Albuquerque is a hard, clean blue, which is wrong in a way that's hard to explain. Usually there's a bit of haze. Today it looks scrubbed. That can happen after a shock wave passes high altitude or after the wind shifts fast. The wind down here is light out of the west, maybe 5 to 10 miles per hour. That matters because anything in the air, smoke, dust, and later fallout, moves with the wind, not with your hopes. Cell networks are mostly down. People are getting 1 text through out of 100, and voice calls are not holding. Internet is not reliable. Some of you can still load a page if you refresh 10 times. Most can't. Car radios work if the car itself still runs. Newer cars are having problems starting. Older ones, the ones without as much computer control, seem to be doing better, but I am not going to promise you anything. City power is off across most of Bernalillo County. I've seen pockets where lights are on, but that may be generator power or isolated circuits. Water pressure is dropping in some neighborhoods. If you have water in your taps, fill containers now. Bathtubs, buckets, anything clean. You can worry later about whether that was overreacting. Overreacting costs you some inconvenience. Underreacting costs you your throat. Hospitals are on backup power. I'm receiving accounts that emergency rooms are already over capacity, not just from burns or glass injuries, but from people hurt in crashes when signals went out, and from people who panicked and did something reckless. Government response. Here's what I can say without making things up. The emergency alert system did fire for a short window right after the first flash. Many of you heard the tone, then a clipped voice that didn't sound like our local staff. It said to shelter and wait for official instructions. Then it cut out mid-sentence. After that, most official FM stations here went silent or looped dead carrier. That suggests the main network feeds are down, or someone pulled them, or the transmitters lost their protection systems. There are reports, again reports, that strikes hit the coasts and the upper Midwest. I cannot confirm city names with a live feed, but I can confirm this. A commercial pilot who still had a working radio sent a short transmission that the air traffic control frequencies were jammed with emergency calls and then went quiet in a way he had never heard, not in storms, not in the worst days. That's not normal. Now I'm going to start weaving in the things coming in over the weak channels we still have. Some of it is ham radio. Some of it is text that crawled in and then vanished. Some of it is people physically arriving here with notes. I'm treating each piece like a scrap of paper in a fire. I hold it up, I read it, and I don't pretend it's more solid than it is. We got a signal from a trucker who was trying to make it east on Interstate 40, somewhere near Laguna. He said the freeway slowed to a crawl because there were cars dead in the lanes, not wrecked, just stopped like they ran out of gas all at once. He said a new pickup with a clean bed was blocking the left lane with its hazards blinking until the battery died. He told us he used his last clean rag to wipe grit off his windshield because the air is full of fine dust that wasn't there yesterday. He said it tastes like hot pennies when you breathe with your mouth open. A nurse who works at a clinic near Rio Rancho sent a short message through a friend's old satellite device, one of the few that still sometimes works. She said they are triaging in the parking lot because the building is running on a generator that is overheating. She said most injuries are from broken glass, people who ran to windows when the flash hit, and then the blast wave arrived and the windows came in. She said she is seeing something else too, people who were outside at the wrong moment and now have skin that looks red and blotchy in patterns, like sunburn but uneven, and their eyes won't stop watering. She did not call it radiation sickness, she just described it and said she's scared. A utility worker from PNM, or someone claiming to be, got through on a scratchy VHF relay. He said the grid didn't just fail. He said protective relays tripped everywhere at once. That's what happens with a big pulse. He said some substations have visible damage to control cabinets, and they're finding blown fuses in places that should not blow unless the equipment saw a massive spike. He said they can't safely re-energize until they know what lines are still intact, and they can't survey the lines fast because their dispatch system is down, and many trucks won't start. And we got a short, careful note from a man on the West Mesa who keeps chickens. He said his hens went quiet right after the flash, not just startled, but silent like they were holding their breath. He said the air smelled like burnt plastic for a few minutes, and then it was gone. He asked if he should slaughter them now or wait. I am not going to answer that for you. I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't know yet what is drifting in from where, and I don't know what tomorrow's food looks like. Here is what we do know, because there are physical signs that don't need a press conference. If you saw a bright flash that did not come with immediate thunder, and then you felt a delayed rumble, that was a distant detonation. If your electronics died without a storm, that was likely an electromagnetic pulse from a high-altitude burst or from the edges of a larger event. If your AM radio still works and your FM is quiet, that's because AM is simpler and the stations are easier to run on older gear. If you can hear me, it means a few old pieces of metal and wire still agree on what the truth is. Shelter guidance. Again, simple. If you are near windows, move away. Glass is still falling in aftershocks of pressure. If you are outside, get inside. If you are inside a large building, move toward the center, away from outer walls. If you have a basement, that's better. If you don't, pick the lowest, most central room you have. Put as much dense material between you and the outside as you can. Books, water, even bags of soil if you have them. It's not perfect, it's something. I need to say this early, within these first minutes, because it will matter later today. Fallout is not a movie cloud you can see from miles away like a slow fog rolling in. Sometimes it looks like nothing. Sometimes it looks like a light dusting that could be pollen. Sometimes it comes as gritty rain that leaves little dark streaks on your car. If you notice dust accumulating in lines, in corners, on windowsills, do not brush it with your bare hand. Do not track it through your house. Take off outer clothes near the entry if you can, bag them, and wash skin and hair with soap and water. Conditioner later can help trap particles, but soap first. No scrubbing like you're sanding wood. Gentle, thorough. I'm watching our meter as I talk. The needle is sitting above normal background, not screaming, but higher than it should be in a city on a clear day. That means something has already changed in the air, or our unit took a hit in the pulse and is lying to us. I checked it with a second unit. It is not lying. There's a brief gap in my own thoughts here that I want to admit. I keep thinking about all the times we used to test the emergency alert system and people would call in angry because it woke their baby or startled their dog. We would apologize and promise it was for safety. This morning the tone came and there was no apology after it, just a sentence cut in half and then silence. I'm going to keep broadcasting as long as the generator holds. It's a small unit, 2,000 watts, meant for keeping lights on in a shop, not running a transmitter. We have fuel for maybe 9-10 hours if we run it steady, less if it starts surging. I'm going to conserve, which means there may be minutes where I drop carrier and come back. If you lose me, keep scanning the low end of the FM band and the upper AM band. There are other voices trying to stitch a net together out of scraps. Another report just came in on a paper note, hand-carried by someone who bicycled here because his car wouldn't start. He said there is a line forming at the Costco on Renaissance, people standing with carts full of bottled water and batteries, but the doors are locked and employees are outside telling them the registers are down and they can't open without management. He said someone tried to force the doors and was pulled back by others, not out of kindness, out of fear of what happens if the crowd breaks. He said he saw a woman counting diapers into a bag like she was doing math with her hands. I need to pause a second and be careful with what I repeat. Rumors are moving faster than cars now. I'm hearing words like incoming, second wave, invasion, dirty bombs. Some of that may be true. Some of it is people filling silence with the worst thing they can imagine. Here's what I can responsibly say. The first strikes already happened. This is not a drill, not a threat, not politics. The indicators are physical, the failures are widespread, and the pattern fits nuclear exchange and high-altitude bursts used to blind and break networks. That is the reality implied by what you are living through right now, even if no one in a suit has managed to finish a sentence on the air. If you are listening in New Mexico, the immediate life-saving steps are about shelter, water, and staying put unless you have a clear reason to move. Roads are clogged and fuel is not certain. If you are closer to any major military base or strategic site, your risk is higher. Kirtland is here. Sandia is here. That means we are not a safe dot on the map. That means you should assume more trouble could come. I'm going to give you one more set of field notes and then loop back to the basics. A man who repairs HVAC units on the south side sent a short transmission from his work van. He said he drove past the sunport and saw planes sitting wrong, parked at angles like someone stopped them mid-turn. He said there were no moving jet bridges. He said the air smelled like fuel, but no one was directing traffic. He said he saw one airport bus abandoned with its doors open and suitcases spilled out like someone dumped them and ran. A student at UNM, someone with access to a roof, said he could see a faint brown smear on the far northern horizon, not like a storm, more like a bruise. He said it stayed low and didn't rise like normal smoke. He said his phone compass was spinning and then stopped. And a National Guard member, again someone claiming to be, sent a clipped burst saying they were told to report to armories but not given details, and that their radios were being rationed because batteries are now mission critical. He didn't say where, he didn't say names. I am not asking for names on this channel. Names get people found. If you're out there and you can hear this, write down what you see with time and place, even if you think it's small, even if you think it's stupid. The world we knew ran on records. If we lose records, we lose the ability to prove anything happened at all. This is Mara Ellison, KQRT Albuquerque. I'm going to cycle back through shelter guidance and what we know about the air and the water in a few minutes. If the signal drops, it is not because you imagined me. It is because the machine is tired, and so am I. The generator pitch just dipped. If you heard my carrier get thin for a second, that's why. It's still running, but it's not happy. If you're out there and you can hear this, keep doing the boring things that save lives. Keep your shoes on inside. Keep a flashlight near you, not in a drawer. Keep your kids away from windows, even if the sky looks calm. I'm going to add one more reality check, because people keep asking in scraps of notes the same question in different words. Are we in danger here, right now, in Albuquerque? The honest answer is that danger is not one thing anymore. There is the danger of another strike, yes. There is the danger of fallout, depending on where the detonations were and what the wind does next. And there is the danger of the city itself failing in slow layers. Water, sanitation, medication, heat, then people. Right now, the biggest mistake I'm seeing is people trying to go look. They're getting in cars that may not start again, driving toward overpasses and high points, trying to see the horizon like it's a show. If you do not have a job that requires you to be outside, if you are not moving to a safer shelter, stay off the roads. Those roads are going to be needed for ambulances and for whoever is still trying to move supplies with vehicles that still run. We're getting accounts that some traffic lights on Central flashed back on for a few minutes and then died again. That suggests a pocket of power came up and then dropped. It also suggests the grid is unstable and someone is trying to reclose lines without full control. Treat every intersection like it's a four-way stop. People are not doing that. I'm hearing about fender benders turning into fights because everyone's nerves are right up on the skin. Weather, because it still matters, the wind out of the west is steady and dry. If you're on the east side near the foothills, that wind is going to push any dust and smoke across the river and toward you. If you're on the west side, you are closer to the mesas and the open spaces where dust can lift and travel fast. The air right now has that faint metallic taste some of you mentioned. That can be dust, it can be smoke from distant fires, it can be ozone from electrical damage, and it can be something worse mixed into all of that. You can't taste radiation, but you can taste the things that come with a world that just got punched. I need to correct something I implied earlier. I said fallout can look like nothing. And that's true, but the most useful thing is not what it looks like, it's timing. If there were ground bursts upwind of us, the dangerous fallout can arrive within a few hours, not days. If it was high-altitude bursts and air bursts, the fallout pattern is different. I don't have a map, I have a needle on a meter and a window and a windsock someone tied to a broom handle outside the basement door. Our meter has climbed a little over the last hour. Not a spike, a slow rise. That is the kind of change that makes my stomach go tight, because slow rises are easy to talk yourself out of. I am not telling you to panic. I'm telling you to treat the outside like it's dirty until we know otherwise. If you have duct tape and plastic sheeting, you can make a better seal for a room, but do not suffocate yourself trying to make it airtight. The goal is to reduce dust coming in, not to turn your home into a jar. Wet towels at the bottom of doors help with dust. Turning off swamp coolers and any outside air intake helps. If you have refrigerated air, set it to recirculate if that option exists. Now I'm going to weave in what's coming to us. It's messy, it's partial, but it's real. We got a short ham relay from someone out near Edgewood. He said it's quiet out there in a way he's never heard. No highway hum, no distant planes. He said a few neighbors are running generators and the sound carries far, like you can hear every engine in the county. He said a sheriff's deputy drove by slow and didn't stop, just looked at houses like he was counting them. A man who works at a grocery distribution warehouse on the south end, he didn't give the company name, sent word that they can't open the dock doors because the electric locks are stuck and their manual override is in an office they can't access without the badge system. He said they have pallets of bottled water and canned goods sitting behind a door they can't unlock, and he was trying not to cry when he wrote it down, because he could hear people outside the fence yelling that they knew food was in there. We also got an account from someone on the north side who said they saw a small police convoy, 3 vehicles, moving toward Louisiana and Paseo, and they had their lights on but no sirens. That's a detail I'm holding on to, because it suggests they're trying to move without drawing a crowd, not because they're trying to be dramatic. Lights without sirens is make way without come see. And a teacher, someone who recognized my voice, which still feels strange to me, brought a note saying the schools that had summer programs running this morning sent kids home fast. Some buses stalled, some parents couldn't get through on phones. She said she watched a little boy stand on a curb holding a lunchbox like it was the only solid thing in the world, and nobody knew whose kid he was for almost an hour. She said they finally found his aunt because the aunt biked up, not because a call went through. That's what I mean by the city failing in layers. It's not just bombs, it's the thin parts of normal life snapping one by one. Government response, local. I want to be careful. I am not seeing any coordinated public message that is reaching people consistently. The city's official social channels are not loading for most. People with battery radios are not hearing local officials, they're hearing static or dead air. That doesn't mean officials are doing nothing, it means the way they usually talk to you is broken. If there are shelter sites being opened, most of you won't hear about it in time unless someone physically tells you. I'm also hearing about checkpoints, but the reports don't match. Some say state police are stopping cars near the Big Eye and turning people around. Others say there's nothing there but stalled vehicles and people walking. I'm not going to tell you to drive into a rumor. If you are already on the road, conserve fuel, keep your windows up, and don't follow crowds. One of the hardest things I have to say is this. If you are thinking about leaving the city because you assume the city will be targeted again, you may be right, but leaving without a plan can kill you faster. If you have a place within a short distance that has a basement, well water, stored food, and fewer people, that may be safer. If your plan is head north until it feels better, that's not a plan, that's a story you tell yourself while you burn your last gas. I'm going to talk about water again, because it is the first thing that turns fear into sickness. If your water still runs, fill containers. If you have a water heater tank, that's a large, clean reservoir you may be able to drain later, but only if you know how to do it safely. Do not drink pool water unless you have no choice and you have treated it. Do not assume clear water is safe if dust has been settling. Cover what you can. We got a note from someone who lives in an apartment near Nob Hill. She said her building's water pressure is dropping and the toilets are already struggling to flush. She said the hallway smells like bleach because people are trying to clean just in case, and it's mixing with fear and old carpet. She asked what to do if the sewers back up. If you're listening and you're in the same situation, the answer is simple and unpleasant. You need a plan for human waste that does not involve running water. A lined bucket with a tight lid, a little bit of bleach or cat litter if you have it, and keeping it away from where you eat. That's not dramatic, that's disease prevention. I'm going to take a breath and tell you something I saw myself, because I stepped outside for less than a minute to check the windsock and the antenna line. The sunlight is normal in brightness, but wrong in feel. It's too sharp. The shadows look like they have hard edges, like the air has been cleaned by violence. There is dust on the sidewalk that wasn't there this morning, a fine gray grit caught in the cracks, and when I rubbed it between my fingers through a cloth, it felt like powdered glass. I don't know where it came from. I know I don't want it in my lungs. If you have N95 masks, use them, but don't waste them walking around inside your house. Save them for when you must go out. If you don't have masks, a damp cloth over your mouth and nose is better than nothing when you go outside. Again, better than nothing, not safe. The generator just surged again. We may need to shut down sooner than I wanted. I'm going to push through more key reports while we have signal. A firefighter, someone who said he was off shift and listening on a handheld, sent a short message that there are small fires all over, not one big blaze, because the power cut caused gas appliances to misbehave, and candles are being used in houses with curtains and clutter. He said they're trying to respond, but the stations are running on backup, and they're being told to prioritize life over property, which sounds obvious until it's your home. A woman from the South Valley said her neighbor's insulin went warm when the fridge died, and they're trying to find ice. She said people are knocking on doors asking who has a generator, and the people with generators are not answering because they're scared someone will take it. And a guy up in Placitas reported that the radio on his old truck still pulls in stations from farther out, faint, like ghosts. He said he caught half a sentence in Spanish about Nube and Dirección del Viento before it vanished. He couldn't confirm where it came from, but he said it sounded like a professional voice, like a real station, not a person like me in a basement. That matters. That means somewhere, some broadcast infrastructure is still alive, even if it's wounded. I'm going to try to hold this frequency for as long as we can, but I need to tell you now, we may have to move before dark. The print shop owner's brother came by 10 minutes ago and said people have been asking questions out front, looking at the door, looking at the roof line like they're trying to figure out where the signal is coming from. That might be harmless curiosity. It might be desperate people who want the generator. It might be someone official who doesn't want an unauthorized transmitter on the air. In a normal world, we would work that out. This is not a normal world. If we relocate, it will be somewhere with deeper cover and fewer eyes. I have a map on paper, I have a backpack with batteries and the mic and the meter, and I have just enough fuel to regret wasting any of it. If you're out there, watch the wind. Watch for dust that wasn't there an hour ago. Watch for rain that leaves marks. Watch for your pets acting strange, hiding, licking their paws too much, sneezing. Those are not magic signs. They are small bodies reacting to a world that changed. I'm going to keep going until the machine makes the decision for me. If the signal cuts, don't assume the worst. Assume movement. Assume silence is a choice, not always a defeat. If you can hear this, this is Mara Ellison on KANM. Well, the bones of KANM, not the building. Low power, improvised transmitter, somewhere near downtown Albuquerque. Still on the same frequency as long as the generator keeps coughing. Here is the chilling fact I can't dress up. Dust is moving in bands now. Not a steady haze. It comes like a thin curtain, then clears, then comes again. That means wind is shifting at different heights. That means whatever is in the air is not done traveling. I'm watching the windsock. The broom handle is wobbling. The fabric points west, then dips, then snaps a little more south. If you're east of the river and you have a choice between rooms, pick the one farthest from the side your wind hits. If your windows face west, put your clean room deeper inside. If you're on the west side and the wind is pushing towards you from the mesas, do the same. Basic, simple, boring choices. They matter. The grid is not coming back cleanly. That little blink some of you saw in Central is a warning, not a promise. When power comes back in pieces, it makes fires. It kills electronics that survived the first surge. It makes people think the world is normal again and step outside at the wrong time. And for those of you still running swamp coolers because you can't stand the heat, I'm going to say it again more firmly, shut them off unless you are certain you're not pulling outside air. Swamp coolers are outside air machines. They take whatever is out there and drag it through wet pads and into your lungs. That's how they work. That is a gift in a normal summer. Right now, it's a risk. We're also getting more consistent reports that the cell network is not just overloaded, it's damaged. A utility tech, he didn't give his name, just said he's with one of the contractors that does tower work, said he drove to 3 sites and 2 were dark and one had power but no backhaul, which means even if the radios on the tower are on, they're not connected to the rest of the system. He said he saw a dish on a roofline pointed the wrong way, like it had been kicked by a giant boot. That's the kind of detail that fits an EMP pulse or a shockwave, depending on how close you are to whatever happened. A nurse from one of the clinics on the west side got a paper note to us through a kid on a bike. She said their vaccine alarms are screaming, but no one can call the maintenance line, and they're trying to move meds into coolers with melting ice from a gas station that still had some. She said people are coming in with headaches and vomiting and asking if it's radiation. She said she's telling them the truth. It could be stress, it could be smoke, it could be chemicals, it could be early exposure. She said the worst part is she can't order lab tests because the systems are down, so she's doing old-school triage with a pen light in her hands. Someone else, a guy who said he works maintenance at an assisted living place near San Mateo, reported they have residents on oxygen concentrators and their backup battery packs are already low. He said they have 2 portable tanks left, and he doesn't know where to get more because the suppliers' phones are dead and the roads feel unsafe. If you are hearing this and you have medical oxygen tanks you don't need, mark your door with a clear sign, not a fancy one, just oxygen in big letters. People are going to start walking for supplies, and they need to know where to knock without having to shout through a closed door. A trucker who was trying to skirt the city on I-40 before the interchange is clogged said there are dead cars on the shoulders like they ran out of gas all at once, which is what happens when people panic drive with half a tank and no plan. He said he saw one family sitting on the curb with their suitcases open like they were trying to decide what parts of their life to keep. He said he offered them water but didn't stop long because he could see a group coming down the ramp behind them. He said the group wasn't running, just walking fast with that stiff, hungry posture people get when they've decided the rules don't apply. I'm going to give you an infrastructure update that is not comforting. Our own water here is still on, but it has a faint smell now that it didn't have earlier. Not strong, not sewage, more like chlorine that's been left in the sun. That can happen when pressure drops and the system tries to compensate, or when they start dumping more disinfectant because they're scared of contamination. If your water smells odd, treat it. Boil if you can. If boiling isn't possible, use household bleach, plain, unscented if you have it, but be careful with amounts. Too much bleach is its own poison. And if you have a filter, use it, but don't assume a basic pitcher filter stops everything. Filters are not magic, they are tools. Now, the government response that I can confirm in a narrow way. A volunteer with a handheld scanner, someone who used to do storm spotting, said he caught a short burst on a public safety channel that sounded like an order to consolidate resources and hold intersections for movement. That is not martial law, that is not tanks, that is tired people with radios trying to keep the city from tearing itself apart while they also worry about what's in the air. If you see officers posted at major crossings, do not argue with them. They are not there to win a debate, they are there because someone higher up is trying to keep corridors open. We also got a shortwave fragment, very weak, that mentioned downwind advisories and listed counties I couldn't fully catch. The words shelter in place came through twice, in a calm voice, like it was read from a card. That's important. That means somewhere, someone still has a script and a transmitter and is trying to do the job. If you have a battery radio that can do AM, keep scanning. If you catch a station that is giving repeated clear instructions, write them down and share them with neighbors the old way, with paper. The generator is running hotter. I can feel it through the floor, a steady vibration that wasn't there at the start. The print shop owner, his name is Luis, I should have said that earlier, tapped the basement door twice a minute ago. That's our signal. It means there are people outside again. We are not going to wait for a knock that turns into a boot. Here's what's going to happen, and I'm telling you before we do it so you understand any break in the signal. We're packing the rig. We're moving to the second site. It's not far, but it's far enough that we can't do it with the transmitter on. We'll be dark for a stretch. If you lose me, don't go looking. Do not add yourself to the streets because you want to chase a voice. Our second site is a church basement near Old Town. Thick walls, fewer windows, a generator that is better cared for than this one. A ham operator named Daryl offered it earlier, and I didn't want to move because moving is risk. But staying here with curious eyes on the roof is also risk. And now the air is worse, not better. I'm putting the meter in the bag. It's reading higher than it was 2 hours ago, and I'm not going to give you the number because without calibration in units, it becomes a rumor. What matters is direction. It's up. We're going out the back, through the alley. Luis says there's a delivery door that opens into a narrow lane between buildings. We will keep our heads down. We will not run. Running makes you look like prey, and it makes you breathe hard, and I don't want more of this air in my lungs than I have to. If you can hear this and you're thinking about moving too, do not move just because I am. Move only if your current shelter is unsafe. If you have stable shelter, stay. Every trip outside is a trade. I'm going to stop talking for a moment to save the last clean minutes of fuel for the move. If the signal drops mid-sentence, that's me pulling the plug, not the sky falling again. If you're out there, keep your mouth covered if you have to open the door, and watch for dust that sticks to wet surfaces. If it clings to damp cloth like flour, treat that as a warning. I'm going quiet now. If you're still with me, keep your face covered. All right, I'm back on for seconds, not minutes. I can't not tell you this while I still have a clean carrier. We just opened the back door and the alley smell is different than the front. The front had hot asphalt and smoke. The alley has wet cardboard, sour trash, and that sharp, flat taste you get when there's electricity somewhere it shouldn't be. Ozone, like a cheap copier that's been running too long. That makes sense, this is a print shop. It also makes me think there are arcing lines nearby, maybe a transformer cooking. If you hear a steady buzz outside your house, don't go hunting it. That buzz is how people lose time. They don't get back. Louis just flashed his phone light once and then covered it with his hand. Not for drama, because if anyone is out there watching for movement, a light is a finger pointing at your ribs. The meter in my bag is still ticking up, even down here by the door. It doesn't like being moved. The needle jumps when I bump it. That's why I didn't want to say numbers earlier. If you've got one of these things and you're shaking, it will scare you even if the air is fine. But it's not fine. The dust is not just dust. We got one more note pushed under the door 10 minutes ago, and I'm bringing it with us because it matters. It's from someone on the south side, near the airport, written on the back of a kid's math worksheet. She said the sky to the south has a brown stripe in it, low, like a bruise laid on the horizon. She said she tasted metal when she breathed outside. That's a real detail. That is a thing your body tells you before your brain makes it a story. I'm going off again. If I cut out, it's because we're moving. If you're out there, stay inside, stay low, keep the wet towels by the door if you have them, but don't soak yourself. Wet cloth traps dust. That's the point. You don't want it on your skin. KNAM, still me, still Mara. New voice, same lungs. We're walking. The transmitter is off. I'm speaking into the recorder, and I'm going to dump this as soon as we're set up again. If you're hearing it live, then Daryl did something clever with a relay, and I owe him a thank you I can't pay yet. The alley is narrow and shaded, and the shade is a relief because the sun is doing that wrong thing again. It's bright, but thin, like it's being filtered through dirty glass. The light on the ground looks normal until you look up. That's when you notice the edge of the sky is not crisp, it's smeared. We passed a back gate that was half open, and I saw the inside of a restaurant's kitchen. No people. Chairs up on tables like closing time. A pot left on a burner, black at the bottom. Somebody left in a hurry. There's a line of dust on the stainless steel counter where the air settled. It's not thick, but it's even. That tells me it's been falling for hours. There's a sound I keep hearing that I need to name so you know what to listen for. It's not sirens, it's not gunshots. It's a low, steady popping, like someone stepping on bubble wrap far away. It comes and goes. That's likely transformers blowing or lines slapping and arcing.
It's the city trying to tear its own nerves loose. We're keeping to the buildings. We're not crossing open streets unless we have to. Louis has a baseball cap pulled down low and a bandana over his mouth. I have a scarf. It's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. I'm going to give you something useful, not just what I see. If you have to move through fallout, And yes, I'm going to say that word now because the pattern fits too well. If you have to move through it, don't brush your clothes off inside your shelter. Take the outer layer off at the door if you can. Bag it. Keep it away from where you sleep. The dust is the danger, not the air itself, and the dust likes fabric. I'm calling it fallout because of 3 things, and I want to be clear about why, because rumors are poison too. 1. The flash reports from earlier, that hard white light and the delay before the sound in some places. 2. The way electronics died in a patchy way, not like a normal outage. 3. This dust coming in bands, like the wind is sorting it. That is how plues behave. That's not 100% proof. It's enough to act like it's true until someone proves otherwise. Shelter first, pride later. We got a short transmission from a guy with a ham call sign I didn't catch. He said he heard a federal tone on shortwave, a real one, not a hobbyist, and that it mentioned ground burst and yield estimate. He said the word yield like it was a stone in his mouth. He also said the message cut off mid-sentence and then came back with a different voice reading the same lines again, like they had 2 people taking turns because one was shaking too hard to keep going. Another report came in earlier from a woman who said she was stuck in an apartment on the 12th floor near Uptown. Elevators dead, stairwells full of smoke from someone cooking on a grill inside. She said she could see, far to the east, a thin gray pillar that looked too straight to be a cloud. She said it didn't move like weather, it just stood there and spread at the top. A firefighter's wife, she didn't give a name, just said her husband was on shift, sent word that the stations are being told to stop responding to small fires because they can't waste engines on kitchens and sheds while there are building fires and downed lines. She said they're triaging by block, not by call, and if you're waiting for help because your neighbor's fence is burning, you might wait until it becomes your attic. If you can safely put out small fires now, do it now. If you can't, close doors. Doors buy time. A closed door can be the difference between smoke in your hallway and smoke in your lungs. We're nearing Central now.
I can tell because the smell changes again. Exhaust, old fry oil, and that dusty, sweet smell of creosote from the landscaping that nobody waters. Central is not loud. That's the part that makes my stomach clench. It should be loud. Even at 3 in the morning, it has a hum. Right now, it's like the city is holding its breath. There are cars stopped at odd angles, not crashed, just left. One has its driver door open. On the seat is a diaper bag. That's not looting. That's a parent leaving in a hurry. We are taking a side street toward Old Town. Daryl said there's a basement entrance on the north side of the church, down a set of concrete steps with a metal door that sticks. He said to push, not pull, and to lift a little because the frame swelled in the summer. I'm repeating that because it's a small thing, and small things become big when your hands are shaking. I'm also repeating one more thing for anyone in a house with kids. If you have iodine tablets, do not hand them out like candy. Read the label. Dose matters by age and weight. If you don't have them, do not drink tincture iodine. That is not the same thing. I heard that rumor earlier and it can hurt you. What you can do safely is shelter and seal and keep dust out. Pills don't stop dust from sticking to your hair and clothes and coming in on your shoes. We just saw people. 2 men and a woman moving the other direction with backpacks and a rolling suitcase with one wheel broken. They didn't look at us. We didn't look at them. That is the rule now. Eyes down, hands visible, keep walking. Nobody wants to be the reason someone else panics. Luis is signaling for us to stop. There's a patrol car across the next intersection, lights off, just sitting there like a dark animal. I can't see if anyone is inside. The windshield is dull with dust. If there's an officer in there, they're doing what we're doing, staying still so nobody has to make a choice. We're going around. If you are hearing this later, from the church, from wherever we land, remember this part. Movement is dangerous right now, not because there are monsters outside, but because people are tired and scared, and the air is dirty, and nothing works the way it should. That combination makes mistakes. I'm going to stop recording again.
We need to cross an open patch, and I need my breath. If you're out there, watch the ground near doorways. If you see a line of dust piled up like flour against the threshold, that means air has been flowing in and out. That means your seal is not a seal. The dust line against the threshold. That's what I was saying. We crossed the open patch.
It was a parking lot that used to belong to a dental office. White paint lines, a little landscaped island with dead mulch, and a flagpole that's still standing, but the flag is gone. The lot felt too wide, like being in a bowl. My skin knew it before my brain named it. Out there, you're a moving dot. You're a breath with legs. We did it fast, and we did it low, cutting along the shadow of a box truck parked sideways like somebody tried to hide it from the street. The side of it had dust stuck to old wax, and when I put my hand on it for balance, my palm came away gritty. Don't do what I did. Don't touch things you don't need to touch. I wiped my hand on my jeans, and then I hated myself for it. The popping sound is closer here. Not constant, but you can count the seconds between it sometimes. Pop, nothing. Pop, pop, nothing. Every time it happens, there's a faint blue flicker reflected on a window somewhere, like lightning you can't see. That's power finding the wrong path. We got to the church. The metal doors on the north side, like Daryl said, down concrete steps that smell like old rain and mildew. The handle is warm. Not hot, just warm. That means there's still current in the building somewhere, or there was recently. Warm metal in a cold crisis is not comforting. It's a warning that something is still alive behind the walls. Push, not pull. Lift a little. The door groaned like it didn't want to be opened. The gap at the bottom had a thin drift of dust pressed in, like flour. That means air has been pushing in. It also means this place isn't sealed. It's shelter, not a vault. We're inside now, basement level. I'm back on the transmitter, low power, because we don't know who's scanning and we don't know who's hunting, and because the battery I'm on is not a deep cycle and I can already feel it sagging. If you can hear this clean, you're close, or you've got good ears and a better antenna than mine. K-A-N-M, Mara. Here's the chilling fact I can give you without guessing. The dust is getting worse with time, not better. It's still falling in bands. When we came down the steps, the air in the stairwell had a visible haze when Luis hit it with his covered light for half a second. That means the particles are staying suspended. That means you can breathe them even when you think you're inside. This basement smells like hymn books, damp concrete, and bleach. Somebody tried to clean in a hurry. There's a stack of folded chairs and a box of children's crayons. There's also a row of cots along the far wall. Not enough for a crowd. 3 of them have blankets laid out. Someone was here earlier. They left fast, or they're in another room. We shut the door behind us, and we didn't latch it all the way at first, because we listened. That's a hard thing to admit. We listened like animals. No voices, no steps, no crying, just the building settling and that distant popping. Daryl is here. He's not on mic. He's hunched over a little table with a car battery and an inverter and a spool of coax cable like it's a pet snake he's trying to keep calm. He got a relay up, like I hoped. That's why you're hearing me. He's pulling the signal through a rooftop antenna that's probably not supposed to be used for this, and he's doing it with hands that are steady because he's too tired to shake. Timeline marker for anyone keeping notes. It's still the same day, late afternoon sliding toward evening. The light outside has that thin look, like the sun is behind a dirty sheet. We've been moving for under an hour, but it feels longer because everything takes 3 times the thought it should. Situation update, as clean as I can make it. The wind is shifting. It was coming out of the south earlier, pushing that airport report north. Now it's softer and it's curling. You can tell by the way the dust collects. It's not just falling straight down. It's sliding along edges, gathering in doorways, in the corners of steps, in the seams of sidewalks. If you're sheltering, check your air gaps on the side of your building that faces the wind. If you have plastic sheeting, tape it. If you don't, use trash bags cut open. Use damp towels at the bottom of doors. Damp, not dripping. Infrastructure. Power is not just out, it's unstable. We saw streetlights on one block, dead the next, then on again like a stutter. That's not a normal grid failure. That's lines dropping and reclosing and then failing again. That means surges. That means if you still have power and you plug something in, it might die when the surge hits. If you have to charge a radio or a phone, do it fast and unplug it. Don't leave it on the wall like normal life still exists. Water. I'm getting reports that pressure is falling, not everywhere, but in pockets. A man who said he works maintenance for a high-rise downtown sent a short message that their top floors are dry. He said the pumps aren't running because the building generator is locked behind an electronic gate and the gate won't open because the control panel fried. He said he's watching people carry buckets up stairwells like it's 100 years ago. He also said the stairwells smell like sweat and smoke and something sweet that he couldn't name. That sweet smell can be electrical insulation burning, or it can be something worse. Either way, don't sleep in stairwells if you can avoid it. They become chimneys. There are accounts of official tones on the air, but they are not consistent and they are not staying up. That suggests either equipment damage or people making decisions they did not plan for. A volunteer in county emergency management, she didn't use her name and I don't blame her, said their office got one fax through. Yes, fax, because old lines sometimes survive when new ones don't. It told them to prepare for radiological contamination without giving an origin point. She said the word radiological was printed like any other day, and that made her angry, like the paper doesn't know what it's saying. Now the intel loop. I'm going to stitch these in as they come, because this is how we build a map when the official map is blank. A trucker on the interstate west of town, near the frontage road by the quarry, reported that the highway is jammed but not with moving traffic. He said people ran out of fuel while idling, and then they abandoned vehicles in place. He said the dust is thicker out there because the wind has nothing to break it up, and he used his last clean rag to wrap his fuel cap so he wouldn't touch it with bare hands. He said his cab filters are already dark and he can taste metal even with the vents shut. If you are in a vehicle, don't rely on recirculate as a seal. It leaks. A nurse at a clinic near Rio Grande sent word through a friend who still has a working text chain. She said they're seeing eye irritation, nosebleeds, and vomiting in people who are outside after the flash. Some of that is fear and smoke. Some of that is particulate exposure. Some of that could be radiation sickness, but it's too early for the worst of it. Her wording was simple. If you start vomiting and you also have diarrhea and you feel weak, like your bones are heavy, don't assume it's just stress. Get away from the dust. Strip outer clothes, bag them. Wash skin with soap and water if you have it. Do not scrub hard. Scrubbing can push particles into cuts. A guy with a utility badge, he said he's with line crew out of Bernalillo, reported they've been told not to touch anything until they get radiation readings. He said that's new. He's been through wildfires and floods and never heard that order before. He said one of their bucket trucks won't start, not even with a jump, and he thinks the electronics are cooked. That supports what we already suspect about the earlier flash and the patchy electronics failure. And one more, because it matters for where we are right now. A pastor from a smaller church south of us sent a note earlier that people are showing up at doors with suitcases asking to be led into basements. He said he's letting them in, but he's also seeing fights start over bottled water. If you are a shelter leader, do not let distribution become a rumor contest. Make a list. Make a plan. People can live with no. They cannot live with maybe if you shout louder. Back to us. We are in this basement because the print shop was too exposed and because the roof there is a big flat collector for whatever is falling. Here we have more concrete between us and the sky. Not enough, but more. The reason for the move is simple. The meter was still climbing. It was not calming down. Lewis saw the number when he shouldn't have, and his face changed in a way I don't want to describe too much, because fear is contagious. But I will tell you what matters. The reading is not a little elevated. It is high enough that staying in a thin-walled building would be a long gamble. Daryl's relay is fragile, he told me without words by showing me the battery voltage on a tiny screen. It's dropping. We might have hours, not days, unless we find a better source. The church has a generator somewhere, but if it's tied to an automatic transfer switch and that switch is fried, we may not be able to use it without tools we don't have. If you're out there and you're thinking about moving, watch for one specific thing before you commit. Look at your shoes when you come in. If the dust on your soles looks like pale gray flour and it sticks in the grooves and doesn't shake out, that means it's fine and it's clingy. That's the kind that travels. That's the kind that gets into bedding and lungs.
Do not track it where you sleep. If I cut out, it's because the battery drops below what the transmitter can hold. If you lose me, keep your radio off most of the time. Save your own power. Turn it on every 15 minutes to listen. The air is going to get worse before it gets better, and I don't know yet if anyone is steering the message or if we're all just listening to the same silence. If you're out there, watch for the way it piles up in a line like it has weight. That's the dust line against the threshold. That's your first warning that the building is breathing. I'm watching it right now under the crack of this basement door. It's not just sitting there. It shifts in tiny pulses, like somebody is pushing air from the other side in slow breaths. When the wind outside gusts, you can see the edge of the line tremble and crawl a little farther in. It means the outside is still getting into us. It means we're not done with this just because we're underground. This is KANM, Mara, still low power, still on Daryl's relay.
Chilling fact for this minute. The warm handle wasn't just leftover heat. It's warmer now than it was when we came in. Metal doesn't warm itself. Something upstream is still feeding current into a circuit that has nowhere safe to go, and it's finding ground through whatever it can. That popping we heard? It's inside the building now, not just outside. It's quieter, muffled by walls, but it's here. Pop, then a pause, then a soft buzz that makes your teeth feel wrong. We are not staying in this basement overnight. I'm saying that plainly because the decision is happening while I'm talking. Daryl keeps looking up toward the ceiling every time the pop hits, like he can see the wires through the concrete. Luis is holding the meter down by his thigh like he's trying to hide it from the room. The number isn't dropping. It's changing, but it isn't settling. That's the thing about fallout when it's fresh. It doesn't behave like smoke. It behaves like a math problem nobody wants to solve. We came here because it was thicker at the print shop. It still is, but being less bad isn't the same as being safe, and the church has two problems we didn't plan on. One is air. The stairwell is acting like a funnel. Every time the wind shifts, it pushes that fine gray into the steps and down to us. The dust line is proof. Two is power. There's live current somewhere in this structure, and it's unstable. If the building takes a surge and something arcs in the wrong place, we don't just lose a relay, we lose the room. Basements fill with smoke fast. Basements trap people. So we're moving again, and I want you to hear the why because it might help you make a hard call too. Concrete helps, distance helps, filters help, but the best help is not being in a place that's becoming a collector and a trap at the same time. We're going to a place Daryl calls the Old Blockhouse. It's a municipal maintenance building near the Arroyo, west side, built out of thick cinder block, low roof, no big windows. He says there's a backup generator there that is not tied to fancy electronics, just a manual pull and a transfer switch that's basically a big metal knife. If it's still there and it still works, we can run the relay longer. If it's been raided, we at least get another set of walls and a better door seal. It's not far in miles. It is far in risk. Situation update while we can still be clear. Weather. The wind is doing that evening thing where it goes calm for 10 minutes and then comes back from a slightly different angle like it's searching. The sky outside the basement windows? Yes, there are those little ground level windows with thick glass. Looks washed out. The sunlight has no color. That's dust in the air column. That's particles catching the light. If you're still outside and you're thinking it looks better now, don't trust your eyes. Trust your nose and your throat. If your throat feels dry and scratchy even when you're not talking, you're still breathing it. Infrastructure. Cell service is not just weak, it's uneven like a patchwork quilt. You'll get one bar standing still, then nothing when you walk 10 feet. That suggests towers are up but backhaul is down, or the tower radios are running on low battery and dropping in and out. Don't waste your phone searching for signal. Put it in airplane mode and save it for brief checks. If you need it as a flashlight, keep the screen dim. Those little choices stack up. Government response. I'm hearing a repeating tone on the emergency band every few minutes, the kind that usually comes before an alert, but the message after it is either cut off or garbled. That tells me someone is trying to push official instructions and they can't keep the transmitter stable, or they can't keep the network links alive. If you get an alert that tells you to evacuate, weigh it against what you can see and what you can actually do. Evacuation into open air during active fallout is not automatically safer. Shelter first. Move only when you have to, and move smart. Now, I'm going to keep the intel loop going because it's the only map we have. We got a short transmission from a guy who said he was state police north of town near the interchange. He didn't give a badge number. He said they tried to set up a checkpoint, but half their patrol units won't start. He said the ones that do start have dash lights that flicker like a haunted house. He said they're down to using hand signals and one portable radio that still works. He also said people are driving the shoulder to get around stopped cars, and one driver hit a disabled sedan and kept going. That tells you what fear does. It makes people heavy-footed and blind. A woman who said she works at a grocery distribution warehouse on the south edge sent a text through a chain that still has life. She said the loading docks are jammed with trucks that can't unload because the doors are on electric motors and the motors won't move. She said they tried to pry one up and the metal track was gritty with dust like sandpaper. She said the warehouse manager told everyone to go home, then locked the doors, and people started pounding on them from the outside. She said she got out through a side gate before that happened. If you are counting on stores to restock, don't. The food exists, but the system that moves it is choking on small failures. A ham operator east of the river, older guy by the sound of his voice, reported something I don't like. He said he watched birds drop out of the air in his yard. Not dozens, not like a movie. 2, small ones. He said they were flying low, then they weren't. That can be shock, smoke, poisoned air, or it can be nothing but bad luck. But paired with the metallic taste and the eye burn people report, it tells me the air is harsh in ways we can't see. And a firefighter, volunteer, not city, sent a short burst that said they responded to a house fire started by a surge when power came back on for a minute. He said the family had left candles burning when they went to get water and came back to a room full of smoke. He said they put it out with a garden hose because the hydrant had no pressure. That's the sequence. No water, then small fires become big ones. If you have any open flame right now, treat it like a loaded weapon. Back to us. We're packing in the quiet way. No banging, no talking. Everything gets wrapped if it can be wrapped. Daryl is winding the coax like it's precious, because it is. Luis is wiping down the transmitter case with a damp cloth, not because it makes it clean, but because it keeps the dust from lifting when we move it. I'm keeping my mouth covered when I'm not speaking. I'm trying not to swallow. The door at the top of the basement steps, this is important, has a small window. Someone pasted a paper notice on it months ago, some church event, and the paper is still there. The dust has stuck to the outside of that paper in a gradient, thick at the bottom, lighter at the top. That's how I know the wind is pushing dust along the ground, not dropping it straight down anymore. It's crawling. We're going out through the north side again. We are not taking the open lot back. We're going to stay tight to walls, use alleys, use whatever cover the town still has. If I cut out while we move, that's not a failure on your end. That's me going portable and the relay dropping until we can raise it again. Keep listening in short bursts. 15 minutes on, 45 off if you can. Save your battery. I'm going to say one more practical thing before we lift the gear. If you have to move through dust, do not rub your eyes. Blink hard. Use clean water only if you have it, and pour, don't scrub. The grit on your lashes is not just dirt. It can carry the thing we're all trying not to name out loud, even though you already know what it is. Fallout is not a rumor anymore. It's on the steps. It's under the door. It's on our hands. We're moving now. If you're out there and you hear this signal thin out, don't chase it into the open. Let us go quiet. Let us come back. Your life is worth more than my voice. I've got the pack on my shoulders and the strap is grinding dust into my jacket. Daryl's in front with the coax mooped like a rope. Lewis behind me with the meter and the battery box. We're keeping the transmitter low, pressed against my ribs so the case doesn't swing and knock anything. Chilling fact for right now, while we're on the stairs, the dust line isn't just on the floor, it's on the handrail. It's clinging to the paint like it's sticky. That means it's not falling like normal dirt. It's got static. It's charged. Or the air is, or both, and it wants to live on anything that used to be clean. This is KANM. Mara? If you can hear me, the relay is barely holding. I'm on Daryl's portable whip, not the roofline. If I drop, don't move because of it. We're at the top of the basement steps now. The door is swollen in the frame. It doesn't want to open. Lewis had to lean into it with his shoulder, slow, not a shove. The latch clicked like it was tired. When the crack opened, the air that came through was colder than the basement, and it had that sharp smell like wet pennies. Not smoke, not sewage, metal. We're not using the main hall. We're cutting through the side corridor by the classrooms. The church smells like old carpet and bleach and something sweet that should not be sweet. I think it's the candle wax from the vigil they were planning before all of this. It's still on the floor in spots where it dripped and hardened. You can see little gray specks stuck in it like pepper. The first thing I noticed upstairs is how quiet the building is without the hum of power. Your ears look for it. You realize how much you relied on it without knowing. Every now and then there's that pop again, somewhere above us, and it makes the ceiling tiles shiver. Not fall, just a tiny shake, like a finger tapped the grid. We're moving in short bursts. 10 steps, pause, listen, breathe through cloth. 10 steps. The cloth over my mouth is damp, and it tastes like laundry soap in panic. Outside light is coming through the narrow windows along the hallway, and it's wrong. It's too flat. No shadows with edges. Everything looks like it's been rubbed with an eraser. I'm getting a new reading off Lewis's meter when he holds it up and turns it toward the window. The number jumps when he angles it toward the glass. It drops when he points it at the floor. That's telling. The dust on the ground is bad, but what's hanging in the air, what's clinging to the outside of the building, that's worse. It's still moving. We're receiving reports that the plume is not one clean wave, it's pockets, it's bands. A volunteer weather guy, he used to do crop reports for the county, sent a note through a ham chain saying the wind is shearing at different heights. He said you can have clean air at knee level and hot air at head level for a few minutes, then it flips. That means if you're outside, you can't trust one breath to match the next. Another report from a utility worker who got a message out before his phone died. He said they tried to reclose a feeder line twice and it tripped both times. He said the insulators on the pole tops were making a faint hiss like frying bacon. He said he'd never heard that unless it was heavy fog. That tells me the air is full of conductive grit and the grid is trying to light it up. We're at the north exit. The door here opens to a narrow strip of dirt and a fence line. Less open sky. Better. Daryl is cracking it just enough for us to slide out. The hinges squeal, and it's loud in this dead town. It feels like we're ringing a bell. Outside, the ground has that same gray dust, but it's not a smooth layer. It's in ripples like snowdrifts. The wind has pushed it into little waves around rocks, around the base of the wall, around the legs of a picnic table that somebody forgot to fold up. The table looks like it's been dusted for fingerprints. We're staying tight to the building. Wall on our right, alley on our left. The air tastes dry, and the moment you step out, you want to cough, even if you don't need to. Don't. If you're listening and you're outside, I'm serious, don't cough hard if you can help it. Coughing drags more in. Try to breathe shallow until you can get behind something. I can see the street through the gap at the end of the alley. There's a car stopped sideways like the driver gave up halfway through a turn. Driver door open, no one in it. The inside looks dusted too, and that scares me more than the empty street. It means the car was open while the air was dirty, and anyone who got in later and thought it was a safe shell, it's not. Cars are not sealed, not in this. We're moving now, across the back lot, staying low, staying fast. The dust puffs under our shoes. Every step makes a little ghost cloud that hangs for a second before it settles. The temptation is to run. Running makes you breathe. We're not running. Another piece of intel came in while we were packing. A nurse at the urgent care on the east side said they have 3 people with vomiting and bad headache who were outside during the first hour after the flash. She said their skin is red in patches where it wasn't covered, like sunburn, but too fast. She said one of them kept saying his mouth tasted like blood even when it didn't. She didn't call it anything. She didn't need to. If you were out in it early and you're getting sick now, that's not nerves, that's exposure. Get sheltered. Strip outer clothes if you can. Bag them. Wash skin with soap and lukewarm water. Do not scrub like you're sanding wood. We cut behind the next building, an old insurance office. The sign is down, lying face first in the gravel. The glass in the front windows is cracked in a spider pattern, but still holding. That's blast pressure, not a thrown rock. The cracks are dusty in the lines, like someone drew them with charcoal. Signal check. I'm still here. If you're hearing me, you're close enough or lucky enough. The power on this handheld is dropping faster than I want. The battery gauge is not honest anymore. It says half. It feels like less. We got a short transmission from a trucker who was trying to get west on the highway before they shut it down. He said the overpass by the interchange is jammed, not just with cars, but with people on foot, walking the shoulder with luggage and blankets like they're leaving a stadium. He said a state trooper waved him off the ramp and pointed him back into town. He said the trooper's badge looked dull, like it had been sanded, dust on everything. He said he saw a man with a stroller covered in a clear plastic tarp, and the tarp was already gray. That's the kind of detail that sticks. People are improvising, but they're improvising late. We're at the mouth of the arroyo now. It's a shallow cut in the land, usually dry this time of year, with trash caught in the brush and a line of cracked mud at the bottom. Tonight, it's our cover. Low ground, less wind, maybe. The maintenance building, Daryl's old blockhouse, is visible ahead, squat and pale, like a storage cube with a metal door. No windows on the side facing us. That's good. The bad part is the padlock. I can see it from here, and it's new. That means someone cared enough to secure it recently, which means someone might have been there first. We're not going to sprint the last stretch. We're going to walk like we belong here. If you're out there and you're thinking of moving, watch the dust on your shoes. If it starts clumping instead of powdering, if it starts sticking in seams and folds, that means the air is dampening it and it will cling to you longer. That's when you need to stop and clean before you bring it inside anything you plan to live in. We're at the door. Daryl's hand is on the lock now. Luis is watching the meter like it's a clock counting down. I'm going to try the handle and keep talking while I do it. The metal is warm.
Not sun warm. It's night on paper, but the sky still looks like late afternoon. That warmth is from inside. That means something in there is still alive. Either the generator has been run, or there's a battery bank, or there's a short somewhere heating the metal through the frame. We're going in anyway, because out here is worse. If the signal cuts right after this, it's because we're sealing up and I'm shielding the antenna behind block. Stay put. Listen low. And if you're out there, watch for warm metal where it shouldn't be. It's telling you the building is not done hurting people. Daryl's turning the key in the padlock now, and for a second I think it's going to seize. Then it gives, like the metal decided it didn't care anymore. The door opens inward a few inches and stops on something. Not a chain. Something soft. Daryl leans in with his shoulder again, careful, and it slides with a scrape that makes my teeth itch. It's a tarp. A thick plastic tarp, the kind you'd throw over a woodpile, wadded up right behind the door like somebody tried to make a quick air seal and didn't finish the job. The inside air rolls out over us in a slow spill. Warmer, yes, but also stale. Old fuel. Hot dust, and underneath it, that wet penny smell again, stronger. We step in and pull the door mostly shut behind us, not latching it yet. Luis's meter jumps just from crossing the threshold. Not a huge leap, but it climbs, steady, like the building has been soaking it up. Chilling fact, while we've got a roof over our heads again, concrete does not mean safe. Block walls slow wind, they stop grit, but the fine stuff rides in on your clothes. It rides in on your hair, on the folds of your shoes. If you sit down in a safe room and peel off your mask and you can taste it again, it's because you brought it with you. This is KANM, Mara. If you can hear me, we're inside the maintenance building by the arroyo north of town.
Still on Daryl's whip antenna, low power, and if my voice warps or fades, it's because we're in a block box and the signal is trying to fight its way out. We're keeping the door cracked just enough to run the coax out along the jamb without pinching it. Daryl's hands are shaking. He keeps wiping them on his pants like it'll help. It won't. The dust smears more than it wipes. There's a workbench along the left wall, pegboard with hooks, most of them empty, a few tools hanging like they were placed on purpose, a big wrench, a pair of bolt cutters, a hammer. They're all gray, not just dusty, like the dust has bonded to the metal. That's not normal. In the center of the room is the reason the door was warm. A generator, squat and red, the kind you can wheel around, but it's not on wheels anymore. Somebody set it on blocks and ran a pipe through the wall to vent it. There's a fuel can next to it with a spout, and the can looks newer than everything else in here. The generator is off, no vibration, no noise, but the casing is still warm enough that when I hover my hand close, I can feel it, like a small animal breathing under a blanket. Luis is doing what he always does when he's scared. He's making a list with his eyes. Door, corners, ceiling, floor. His meter. He points the meter at the generator and the number spikes, then drops when he points it at the wall. So it's not the generator itself, it's what's on it. Dust. We don't have a real decon setup. We have a tarp, a bottle of water, a rag, and a trash bag. That's what we've got. Daryl unrolls the tarp and makes a strip on the floor, like a dirty line. Shoes stay on one side. Everything that came from outside stays on one side. We're not perfect. We're trying to not be stupid. I'm sitting on an upside-down bucket near the workbench, transmitter against my ribs, jacket still on because I don't want my skin touching anything in here yet. The cloth over my mouth is damp enough that it's starting to feel cold. Luis is shaking out our coats, slow, close to the floor, like he's trying to keep the dust from floating. It still floats. It comes up in a low gray bloom and hangs there, lazy, then settles again on everything we just cleaned. So that's where we are. Here's what we know, and I'm keeping this tight because the battery is not going to love me for long. Emergency services are saying the main event was not local. That's important. That means whatever flashed out there, whatever made the sky go flat and the air turn to grit, it came from far enough away that we didn't get the direct blast, but close enough that we got the wind shift and the fallout banding. If you were outside at the wrong time, it didn't matter that you were not near it. The air did the travel for you. We're receiving reports that the county sheriff's office tried to set up a checkpoint on the South Road by the feed store, but they had to abandon it when their radios went dead and their cruisers wouldn't hold a charge. One deputy, someone who knows our frequency, sent a short, ugly message. He said the car computers were glitching and the dash lights were strobing even with the key out. He said the air around the hood smelled like hot plastic. That's not panic. That's systems getting cooked in a way they weren't built for. Another report came through a ham operator out by the reservoir, an older guy who normally checks in for storm nets. He said his Eiger counter, he called it that even though it's one of those newer meters with a digital face, went from quiet to chatty in minutes when the wind shifted. He said he saw dust moving like it had a mind, curling around his porch posts and sticking to the underside of his truck like the truck was magnetized. Then he did the one smart thing. He shut himself inside and taped his vents. He said his neighbor didn't. He said the neighbor tried to drive and the engine wouldn't turn over. He said he could hear the neighbor coughing from across the yard and it didn't stop. We got a message from someone who works at the water plant. Not the supervisor, a guy who usually handles valves and filters. He said they lost pressure after the first power hit, got it back for a short window on backup, and then the backup tripped because the intake screens were loading up. Loading up with what? He said the water looked cloudy, like someone poured milk into it, and the screens had a gray paste on them. He said they tried to hose it off and it just smeared. If your tap still runs right now, don't take that as a sign you're fine. It means your tower still has head pressure. When that drops, it drops fast. And there's more, but I'm spacing it out because we need time. Louise is at the generator now, checking the fuel line without touching his face. Daryl found a small radio on a shelf, an old battery AM/FM that someone left here. He turned the dial and got nothing but a hiss, and then a single voice far away, thin like a thread, saying the word shelter over and over in a loop, like a recorded message stuck on repeat. He couldn't hold it long enough to tell where it was coming from. So the official system is trying to talk, it's just not reaching us clean. Here's a concrete thing you can do if you're listening and you're still in a place with four walls. If the air outside smells like metal and your skin starts to itch, don't open your doors just because the wind calms down. A calm wind is when the dust settles. Settled dust is not gone dust, it's waiting. If you have a fan, don't point it at an open window. If you have to move air, move it through cloth, through a furnace filter if you have one, through anything you can tape over an intake. And if you don't have that, you're better off hot and still than cool and breathing grit. Luis just held his meter up again, toward the ceiling, and it spiked higher than it did at the floor. That tells me the dust is not just coming in low.
It's riding heat. This building is warmer inside, and the fine stuff is hanging up top like smoke. We're gonna run the generator, but not yet. Not until we get the antenna position, then the exhaust checked. If we fire it and it sucks in dust, it'll clog. If it clogs, it dies. And if it dies, we're back to hand power and luck. We're receiving reports that the hospital in the next town over, bigger than ours, has started turning people away unless they can't breathe. A medic sent a quick note that they're using damp sheets over doorways and taping plastic over broken windows, and they still can't keep the grit out. He said they're seeing nosebleeds in people who weren't hit by anything, just breathed outside air. He said one kid came in with eyes red and swollen, and the parents thought it was allergy. And then the kids started throwing up. That's not allergy. A trucker, different from the first, got a message through on a sideband. He said he stopped at a rest area to sleep and woke up to a line of cars with hoods up like a used car lot. He said people were draining each other's batteries with jumper cables, and it wasn't helping. He said a woman had wrapped her hands in grocery bags to pump gas because the pump handle was burning her skin, but when he touched it, it wasn't hot. That's the kind of detail that makes my stomach go cold. Static, charge, fine grit. It doesn't have to be hot to hurt. Outside this building, the wind has started to make a low sound in the arroyo, like someone dragging a broom across dry leaves. It's not loud, it's steady. It means the dust is moving again. Banding, like that weather guy said. Pockets, waves. Daryl just latched the door fully, and the room went darker by a shade, like the light itself got filtered. That's another fact. Even when you're indoors, the world outside is still bleaching itself. The sun, or what we're getting of it, looks the same, but the color is wrong. The sky can't decide if it's day or night. I'm going to keep talking as long as the battery lets me, but we're about to change how we broadcast. This block building is shielding the whip too much. We're going to run a length of coax up and out through the vent pipe opening, and Daryl's going to climb just enough to get the antenna higher against the wall. Not on the roof. We're not making ourselves a lightning rod for charged air. Just higher than ground level. If you're listening and you're in town and you're thinking of coming out this way toward the arroyo, don't. Not yet. The low ground helps with wind, but it's also where heavier particles settle. If the dust is carrying anything hot, the bottom of a cut is where it will collect. Hold tight. Seal what you can, and watch your metal. If you touch a doorknob and it feels warm when the room is cold, if you touch a pipe and it feels like it's buzzing under your skin, if your hair stands up without a storm, that's the air telling you it's charged and dirty. And if your mouth starts tasting like pennies when you haven't eaten anything, don't talk yourself out of it. That's your body giving you a warning it doesn't know how to explain. This is KANM. Mara, still here, still low power. If the next minute goes thin, it's because we're moving the antenna and the signal is going to dip. Don't chase it. Stay sheltered. Let it come back if it can. The coax is out now, and that was the hard part. It's stiff in the cold dust, like it wants to remember every bend it's ever had. Daryl fed it through the gap by the vent pipe, little by little, and each time it scraped the concrete, I watched the meter like the needle could warn us before it was too late.
Chilling fact that doesn't sound like one until you live it. The safest air in a dirty event is not always the air you can find, it's the air you can keep. Every time you open a door, every time you crack a window just for a second, you reset the clock on what you breathed in. People think in minutes. This thing is working in layers. This is KANM, Mara, still in the maintenance building by the Arroyo, north of town. If you're hearing me fin or like I'm talking through a pillow, we're pushing signal through block and rebar and it's doing what it can. Luis is watching the ceiling with that look he gets when numbers don't make sense. He held the meter up again while Daryl was on the wall outside, and it climbed in a slow, smooth way, not like a spike. That's worse. Spikes mean a patch. Smooth means the whole room is dirty, just less dirty in the corners. Daryl's back in now. He didn't go on the roof. He kept his boots on the cinder blocks by the vent pipe and strapped the antenna to a piece of conduit that was already bolted there. Smart. Quick. He's got gray dust in his eyebrows that makes him look older. He's not laughing. We're going to try the generator. If it starts and stays stable, it buys us time. If it doesn't, we go back to battery and we talk less. Daryl did the priming bulb twice. Luis held the meter near the exhaust pipe because he's worried about what's already on the inside of that line. I'm telling you what we're doing because if you have a generator at home and you're thinking about starting it, this is the part you skip and later you pay for it. First, check your intake. If the intake is pulling outside air full of dust, you're grinding grit into a small engine that was never meant to eat sand. Second, check your exhaust path. If you have any kind of tape or plastic near it, heat will melt it and you'll be breathing the melt. Third, do not run it in a sealed room just because you're scared of outside air. Carbon monoxide does not care about your fear. It will sit in your blood like a weight. Daryl pulled. The cord came back with a snap. Nothing. He pulled again. The engine coughed once, like a throat clearing. Then it started. The sound is steady, a low thrum. Not loud, but it fills the room because the room is small. The smell changes right away. Less stale, more sharp, like varnish. The exhaust is going out through the pipe in the wall, and I can feel the faint push of warm air near the crack in the door. Luis is watching the meter like he's watching a patient. It jumps when the generator vibrates dust loose from its own casing, then settles. That tells me the dust is sitting on everything and waiting for movement. So, we are going to move as little as we can. We're not staying here long. I'm saying that out loud now. This building is a stop, not a home. The readings are not climbing fast, but they're not dropping, and every hour we sit in here, the dust on our clothes falls into our food, into our eyes, into the folds of our masks. The plan, if the roads let us, is to move southwest toward the old FM translator site on the ridge above San Arroyo. Not the main station, the little one that used to fill the canyon dead zone. It's higher and it's got a metal shed and a real mast, and the line of sight is better. If we can get to it, we can push farther without burning so much power. That matters now. But we can't move while the dust is running. We wait for the lull and we move short. That's what people who live through storms do. You don't fight the whole sky, you steal minutes from it. We're receiving reports that the state is trying to set up what they're calling clean corridors on the interstate. That phrase is going to get people killed if they believe it means safe. A highway is not a filter. A highway is a flat, open place where wind can throw grit at you without anything to catch it. A nurse who got a text out from the emergency department said they had 2 cars roll in with kids in the back seat, windows up, vents on recirculate, and the inside of the cars still had a fine gray line on the dash like someone sprinkled flour.